I try not to miss them because it's an absolute blast. It's a special time.
Play as a team and not individually.
Yeah, I took, I don't know how many pictures of it, 50 or so.
This is how you do it. After you get them loaded up, you get permission to go, and then you get in and get on your way.
I've had a number of people say this is more like a work of art than an ink pen.
Matt called me at work one day and said, I found this home in Goner. Where's Goner?
We've dominated the sport. Hendrick Motorsports has been identified as the 7th best sports franchise of all time.
We needed her to be homecoming queen because we wanted her to represent us as a whole, as the class of 2013. So that's just like, she's just an inspiration to all of us.
And the real ones aren't always where they want them. So they buy the fake ones from us, and they use them in a lot of the street scenes.
Those are just a few of the extraordinary people that I'll reacquaint you with in the next half hour. Hello everyone, I'm Lance Schwartz, and this is the 25th edition of the Best of Lance's Journal. Harold Jones was a train-aided humanitarian. In 1991, he started taking his mini train to camps for kids with cancer. When this story first aired in 2013, Harold had volunteered his time at 53 week-long camps over 26 years.
This is how you do it. After you get them loaded up, you get permission to go, and then you get in and get on your way.
This little green machine has held a special place in Harold's heart for a long time. Harold's mini train was built in the Havelock shops in Lincoln in 1976. He bought it in 1986. Little did he know at the time, this amazing little train would provide thousands and thousands of smiles over the next quarter century. Woo!
Yes, I do. I enjoy it every time I take it out. I've met some fine, fine people just because of the train.
Harold's mini train has thrilled riders for more than a decade here at Bellwood Days near Columbus.
This goes about 9 miles an hour, which is pretty fast for something like this.
But donating his time, train, and talents to Camp Quality since 1991 is what has left the most lasting impression on Harold's life.
Those kids that have cancer, they've never had a chance to enjoy life. That's all they know is doctors. And I think the most rewarding thing I've done is being involved with Camp Quality.
This guy is a natural-born giver.
I've been to 53 cancer camps across the United States, and I stayed a week at each one, so therefore I've donated a year of my life to kids with cancer.
And why did you do that?
What can I say?
How does that make you feel when you're giving of your time and your energy?
Well, it makes me feel good because I like kids.
It's fun to have a ride on a train with your family.
Tom Parker admires what his friend has done over the last few decades.
Well, Harold's just an overall good guy. Anybody that operated this thing for 25 years, never took a nickel for doing it. Pretty special guy.
Well, it was a good investment. No matter what happens to it, it was a good investment because I truly enjoyed doing this.
Unfortunately, Harold passed away back in May at the age of 81, and I was truly honored when Harold's family chose to show this very special edition of Lance's Journal at Harold's funeral. Now to a supercharged story that aired in November of 2012. It centered around a psychologist who knows an awful lot about motivating athletes. Dr. Jack Stark went from the Nebraska football team to NASCAR. There is nothing quite like it in all of sports.
I have absolutely had a blast doing it.
Trading paint, risking lives, going bumper to bumper at 200 miles an hour.
It's an unbelievable experience.
Dr. Jack Stark is a psychologist with an addiction to the high-speed heroics of NASCAR.
You get to know the people. It's intense. It's both a combination of high technical issues and athletics, and they meld together. And once you go to the races and stay inside the pits and know everything that's going on, it's very addictive and it's intense.
And that's just the way Jack likes it.
You know, you're competing against guys, and tenths of a seconds are everything. It's huge.
For the past 11 years, Dr. Stark has been the team psychologist for Hendrick Motorsports.
We've dominated the sport. Hendrick Motorsports has been identified as the 7th best sports franchise of all time.
Jack works with some of the best drivers in the world, from Jeff Gordon to Jimmy Johnson to number 88, Dale Earnhardt Jr.
I can tell you that these are really, really nice guys. They're very patriotic, they're very spiritual, they're very family oriented. You don't run into problems, there's not a stinker in the bunch.
Jack says football and motorsports have a lot more in common than one might think. And after a long, successful career with the Huskers and more than a decade with Hendrick Motorsports, Jack is a guy that would know.
The big thing is team unity. That's really what I really try to work on. I have unity councils, I have team meetings, I have retreats, I do all those kinds of things. This is the pit box.
Dr. Stark is the only permanent sports psychologist in all of NASCAR.
A lot of my duties on the psychological side is, we have marriages, we have girlfriends, we have parents, we have kids, we have getting along with your crew chief and who's like a head coach. Every driver has about 100 people assigned to them. So you got to be a great driver, but you also have to be a great leader. You have to motivate your people.
You'd never know it by looking at it today, but not so very long ago, Lincoln's Haymarket was filled with deserted warehouses. Ann Burkholder would not be discouraged. In 1987, she bought the old Woods Brothers building, and the rest, as they say, is Lincoln art history.
I was born in 1940. It was just right before the Second World War.
Ann Burkholder found her calling very early on.
I just always remember being very interested in drawing and painting.
She was born in North Platte and raised in Custer County.
My first set of oils was when I was like 6, 7 years old. It was grown-up oils and painting on grown-up canvas.
And more than 1,000 canvases later, this 72-year-old trailblazer is still working on 4 or 5 oil paintings at a time.
There is something about this wide open space.
Most of them having something to do with landscapes in her beloved Nebraska.
I have been so lucky that I have been able to do this in my life because I do love it so much.
Ann was right out of art school when she had a studio in the downtown area.
And I kept thinking how fantastic it would be if I could work and live and show my work, be accessible to the public all in one place.
26 years ago, the Burkholder Project came to life at 7th and P Streets.
I still feel like it's the most interesting part of Lincoln.
Over the past quarter century, more than 125 artists have rented space here at the Burkholder Project. One of the 15 original artists is John Nollendorf.
Well, Ann Burkholder is a phenomenal entrepreneur, artist. She breaks the mold when it comes to trying to make money with art.
Lisa Holmquist has been Ann's gallery director for the past decade.
She is a woman of vision and courage.
Lisa sees Ann's enduring legacy on a daily basis.
One of the things Ann wanted to accomplish was creating working space for artists, but also a way for them to collaborate and support each other, and that has certainly happened.
This building is chock full of incredible art. It's home to 32 different studios, just like this one.
I come to work excited just about every morning. So it's a pretty good life.
A pretty good life indeed. Another talented artist made his way into Lance's journal in late 2012. Gary Jones's desire to preserve precious memories with his 2 sons turned into antler memory pins.
Memory is just a huge part of what makes life important. What can we do that can stimulate those memories?
The answer for Gary Jones? Antler memory pins.
People will bring me antler from a deer that they harvested.
Once Gary has the antlers, he puts them on his lathe and turns them into treasures. To most people, this looks like a big box of antlers. To Gary Jones, it looks like a big box of memory pins. It absolutely amazes me how he can turn this into this.
I've had a number of people say this is more like a work of art than an ink pen.
They look great on camera, but they look even better in real life.
I can't tell you how many times I've heard "wow" followed by "you made that." I try not to take that personally.
Gary loves to tell hunting stories.
It was the buck of a lifetime.
But the tales of the trophy deer on the wall always seem to pale by comparison to the stories about his favorite hunting partners.
Being able to have my sons with me when I killed trophy bucks was probably more special to me than the idea that I killed a trophy buck.
Gary dreamed up the memory pin concept a year ago when he was wondering what he should get his 2 grown sons for Christmas.
When I'm gone someday, I wanted my boys to have something that they would be able to have with them every day that they could remember me.
Maybe Gary's favorite deer hunting story happened when his son called him about an upcoming expedition.
He said, "Can I go?" And I said, "Well, Paul, it's too late to get a deer tag." And he said, I didn't want to hunt, I just want to come be with you. For a dad to hear words like that from his 25-year-old son, money can't buy that.
Now that's something any dad would love to hear from his son. Golfers from around the world got together in Lincoln in 2013 for the 65th annual National Amputee Golf Championship. And fortunately for my buddy Ken and I, we got to spend some quality time with a very inspiring golfer from Lincoln. Hello and welcome to the beautiful Wilderness Ridge Golf Course. I'm Lance Schwartz, along with a couple of gentlemen, one of which is one of the top 5 golfers in the 1011 weather department. Ken, I'm so glad you're here.
Thank you. It's great to be here. I was told there'd be free lunch.
There will be.
Good.
We're also with one of the top 5 above elbow golfers in the nation, Dick Kroffel. I'm so glad you're here as well.
Well, thank you, Lance.
Gentlemen, let's swing some clubs.
Here we go.
Dick's been a teacher for 36 years. He got started at Norris and is now at Sco Middle School in Lincoln.
The greatest subject there is, American history.
Oh my gosh, that is the greatest subject.
Dick always enjoys a good challenge.
$1 closest to the pin.
Oh, we're going to play closest to the pin for $1?
Yeah.
Well, I hardly have. You're on, mister.
Ken came up with a nice little chip shot, but he had no idea who he was up against, because this 3-time national champion knows how to escape a sand trap in style.
He's just going to go ahead and chip in for a 2. Wow.
The weatherman's wallet just got a little lighter.
Great shot. There you go. There's the, I'm getting out of here.
Thanks, Ken.
Dick was just 20 years old when he lost his arm in a car accident in 1973.
I was in a little bit of a hurry coming home and passing another car, and a motorcycle came out, and I swerved to avoid it.
All things considered,
I'm very fortunate.
For how many years you've been playing golf, how important has the game of golf been to you?
Oh, it's very important to meet new people.
Dick invites amputees from all around the Midwest to join in on the fun.
It would be a good idea for them to make it here if they haven't been to a national tournament before, because it's kind of a celebration.
A celebration of inspiring people just like Dick Kroffel.
You are something special, and I don't know whether with your help today I got to be a little bit better golfer, but I'm pretty doggone sure I got to be a little bit better human being, and to me, that's a much bigger game in the grand scheme of things.
Thank you very much.
My pleasure, thank you.
Yeah.
That was a very memorable day for me at Wilderness Ridge. The mission at Shea Bubba Cafe in Goner is to provide a down-home atmosphere with a side of savory barbecue. At Shea Bubba, Matt Howe says you can bring a date or come in straight out of the field with mud on your boots.
Well, it's the excitement of being where our nation's business is done. I mean, you're footsteps away from pretty important people and get to see and do a lot of neat things.
Matt Howe's fiancee Julie was also enjoying life in our nation's capital.
I really liked life in DC, the culture, the nightlife. It was exciting.
Matt got married to Julie in 2002 and had a child a couple of years later.
My son was born, I had a few days off, and I worked 35 days in a row, weekends, nights.
Matt and Julie needed a better place to raise a family.
Matt called me at work one day and said, I found this home in Goner. Where's Goner?
Goner, as it turns out, is 11 miles west of Seward and not far from where Julie grew up. Matt Howe says you can bring a date or come in straight out of the field with mud on your boots.
Well, it's the excitement of being where our nation's business is done. I mean, you're footsteps away from pretty important people and get to see and do a lot of neat things.
Matt Howe's fiancée Julie was also enjoying life in our nation's capital.
I really liked life in DC, the culture, the nightlife. It was exciting.
Matt got married to Julie in 2002 and had a child a couple of years later.
My son was born, I had a few days off, and I worked 35 days in a row, weekends, nights.
Matt and Julie needed a better place to raise a family.
Matt called me at work one day and said, I found this home in Goner. Where's Goner?
Goner, as it turns out, is 11 miles west of Seward and not far from where Julie grew up.
Goner needs a place for the community to get together.
And that place is Chez Bubba Cafe.
Chez Bubba Cafe, kind of classy, mostly Bubba. And we want you to feel comfortable in your boots or your suits.
Goner itself is just a tremendous community. We have a lot of wonderful people.
And those people love this cozy cafe that opened 4.5 years ago.
We love it, and it's so good.
I think it's awesome.
It's a great place. We can bring the whole family, and the food is wonderful.
Our philosophy here is to be that place that welcomes everyone in. How are you folks doing?
After visitors get welcomed into this 110-year-old former service station, they get to dig into some tantalizing menu items.
I think it was important to differentiate ourselves and not be the typical small town bar food.
Well, barbecues are one of our signature menu items and something that we take great pride in. We want to have that home-cooked kind of feel to all our food. We grind our own hamburger, cut our own steak. We come up with a lot of unique things.
A decade later, the Howes are happy that they traded the city life for the good life.
I don't regret it in the least. Our kids get to know their cousins, their grandparents.
It was definitely an adjustment to move back, but worth it.
Good job.
I just love to see people realizing how great it is to live the good life in Nebraska. Doctors said that Hannah Goodban would never walk or talk or go to a normal school. Fortunately, Hannah never stopped believing in herself. Nebraska. When we first got to know Hannah this past April, she had beaten the odds and made her way onto the Waverly High School speech team. It was a great way to end her junior year.
Let's go Vikings!
This past weekend, Hannah found a great way to start her senior year. It took place at halftime of the homecoming football game.
Hannah Goodban is the daughter of Rob and Becky Goodban and the late Laurie Miller.
It was a moment very few of those in attendance will ever forget.
The 2012 Waverly High School homecoming king and queen are Hannah Goodban and Kevin Dennis.
For Hannah, it was an important milestone in her life. How does it feel?
Really good. I feel like I inspired everyone. It's like a dream come true.
Love was in the air. Teachers got emotional as family members celebrated their newly crowned homecoming queen. Hannah's parents say their daughter's new crown speaks volumes about the kindness of the entire town of Waverly, and most notably, Hannah's classmates who have been beside her since kindergarten.
Yeah, congratulations.
Thank you.
Lindsay Erickson speaks for the class of 2013.
And we have like a saying that we want to leave a legacy. And I think that like this is a really great thing that we're going to leave behind and put our mark on the school. And also put a mark on Hannah's life that she can look back on and really like say that that was a great part of high school for her.
I got chills right when her name came out of the loudspeakers.
Jesse McGuire just knew it was going to be a landslide victory for Hannah.
This was a process. Like, we all thought about this earlier. Like, we needed her to be homecoming queen because we wanted her to represent us as a whole, as the class of 2013. So that's just like, she's just an inspiration to all of us.
That story still gives me chills. Okay, from Waverly, let's head to Gibbon, where a number of unlikely movie stars are just sitting on the floor waiting for their big break into showbiz. You may not have realized it, but you've probably seen them in movies like The Matrix, The Son of the Mask, and Superman. If you've seen a fire hydrant in a movie made by 20th Century Fox or Paramount Pictures, there's a good chance it was made right here in Gibbon, Nebraska. Movie producers love these fire hydrants because they are very realistic and they weigh considerably less than real fire hydrants.
All our 3D pieces are made out of polyurethane.
Kyle Volan is a master creator and sculptor.
If you're watching a movie, pretty much any movie nowadays, if you pick out a fire hydrant, there's a really good chance that that fire hydrant was made here in Nebraska. Because, you know, nothing in the movie is real anymore, and the real ones aren't always where they want them. So they buy the fake ones from us, and they use them in a lot of the street scenes.
One of the first feature films to use one of Kyle's hydrants was Bruce Almighty with Jim Carrey in 2003.
Yeah, we got it, we watched it, went through, and you know, then you finally pick it out. And if you weren't looking for it, you might not even see them. You rewind it a couple times, you look at it and go, okay, it's over. Now I don't need to watch the rest of the movie.
The fire hydrants were just the start.
This deer was done for a city down in Texas.
About a third of the Icon Poly Pie now involves public art projects.
At the end of the project, the money is going to charities.
From 10-foot-tall guitars on display at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in Cleveland.
They bought 70 of the guitars from us.
To a truckload of birds for a city down south.
Right now they're making a pelican for Slidell, Louisiana.
Kyle has been married to Danielle for 17 years.
There you go.
He's always artistic and tinkering around, so I thought, oh, it just helps pass his time. I never thought it'd get this big.
Icon Poly produces more than 1,000 replica fire hydrants every year.
It's been exciting. We've been all over the United States. I think there's only 4 states in the U.S. that we have not been to as a family.
You got it all good there?
Yeah.
That story changed the way I view fire hydrants in movies forever. The cost to build the Nebraska State Capitol in the 1920s was about $10 million. The cost for Dick Caves to build his version of the Capitol was about $75.
I enjoy doing it. I probably wouldn't do it if I didn't. Makes it pretty small, you see.
Dick Caves is 86 years old.
I'm proud of it. I'm not pushing 87, I'm pulling 86.
Dick's fascination with matchsticks started when he visited a matchstick museum in Gladbrook, Iowa.
On the way home, I said, I think I'll just build a Capitol.
So he did. Dick says it took 25,000 matchsticks and 2 years to create this incredible replica of the state capitol. And the bonus is, he even made it with a perfectly scaled down sewer.
I look back and I say, I can't understand how they even could construct it when they did with the equipment they had to do it with. How did they get stuff up there?
Dick did his homework and analyzed Capitol building blueprints.
Yeah, I took, I don't know how many pictures of it, 50 or so, and even was accosted by the security department over there one time. He said, what are you doing?
And what he was doing was making it exactly to scale.
About 1 to 15. 1 inch equals about 15 feet.
Dick knows a lot more about the Capitol than he ever bargained for.
Well, I found out it got an awful lot of windows. I think there's, what, 1,100 and some windows in there? That's a lot of drapery.
Dick spent about 2,000 hours gluing and sanding, gluing and sanding.
You just let them dry.
He enjoys getting lost in the process.
I forget all about what's going on until I get done, then I go upstairs and go to bed.
Dick's friends are impressed.
Well, they think it's awesome.
Dick, on the other hand, isn't as impressed.
I don't know that it gives you some satisfaction, but I'm not really elated about it.
I can tell Dick enjoys playing down his accomplishment.
I could take that down tomorrow and it wouldn't hurt me a bit.
Really?
I think I put it out in the street and run over it.
Doesn't make a good story. Allison Aldrich was just 7 years old when she discovered a tumor in her right ankle. Allison had to have her leg amputated below the knee, but she never let that slow her down.
We believe that you guys can win. You guys need to believe that you guys can win. Don't get down on each other.
When Allison Aldrich preaches positivity to her Wilbur Claytonia volleyball team, she knows what she's talking about.
Play as a team and not individually.
Allison had her leg amputated while she was in 2nd grade.
When they amputated it, they found a quarter-sized tumor growing in my ankle. So they was lucky that they amputated it.
Allison credits her mom and dad for giving her a relentless spirit of determination.
Well, my parents were really supportive about everything, and the one thing we decided was to never let me be pitied about my leg, never let it bother me to the fact where I needed to make excuses for it. What makes it easier for people to realize is, like, this is the inside of a leg. It's called a socket, so that's what my leg fits inside.
Allison earned a spot on the United States Paralympic sitting volleyball team when she was just 16 years old.
It's a tough sport, but it drives me to get better at it each day, and it keeps me wanting to compete all the time.
Allison helped her team bring home bronze in Athens in '04, silver in Beijing in 2008, and recently she and her fellow Americans captured silver in London.
It's been an amazing journey. I remember my first camp thinking, I am doing this, kind of figuring out that this is the first time in my sports life that I've been judged on my ability and not my disability, because everybody on my team is disabled.
Allison's positive attitude allowed her to compete on the golf team at Nebraska Wesleyan.
I was always taught to turn the negative situation into a positive, which I have done throughout my life, as well as taught my students.
She's really inspiring to all of us. She's pushed her way through life with all the accomplishments she's had and all the struggles she's had with her leg. And she's pushed me to know that you can do anything to make anything possible.
It's an amazing experience. As I'm getting older, I'm really realizing what it is. You people get to represent their country, get to wear USA on their back, and get to show the pride that they have for their country. I've got to do so many things, seeing a couple of wonders of the world, and I'm only 24. Not very many people get to do that.
Believe on 3. 1, 2, 3, believe!
Believe is a very fitting word to associate with Schuyler's own Allison Aldrich. Have you ever been to a Big Red pep rally at Misty's in Havelock the night before a Nebraska football home game? If you have not, I highly recommend that you do so in the very near future.
Coming out to Misty's the night before a home game is just a way to kind of encapsulate and experience a Husker weekend all in one. The pageantry, the excitement is in the air.
Jason Danner has been a Misty's pep rally regular since the 90s.
I try not to miss them because it's an absolute blast. It's a special time.
Once inside, you'll find the 3 most important elements to every great Husker pep rally. Great food.
Prime rib!
They have crazy fans.
Go Big Red!
And of course, they have the Husker Pep Band.
And this is the only place you can see this kind of spirit is at Misty's.
Steve Swanson's pregame ritual has included Misty's for more than 30 years.
We've got 18 people here to show them what Nebraska is about. The tradition is on the walls, it's on the ceiling, it's on the football helmets. Everything that's been here for 30 years is right here in this place. You cannot find it anywhere else but here.
Nebraska fans have a reputation of being some of the most welcoming in all of college football. And the manager at Misty's says this is where it all begins.
The away team is just as welcome as our Nebraska fans are here.
Minnesota! Minnesota!
Feeling very welcome. Everybody in here is wearing red that's from Nebraska. It's neat to see that. That's the kind of atmosphere we'd like to get back in Minnesota.
Penn State fans several years ago, like around '07, came out and said, you know, we hated you guys before we got here, but the hospitality's been so great in Lincoln at the airport, here at Misty's, and around town. They kind of leave with a little bit of a flavor of the heartland of the Midwest, and it makes us proud to show off the Husker spirit that we know so well.
Go Big Red. That ought to get you ready for some football. Well, that'll do it for this 25th edition of the Best of Lance's Journal. I'm Lance Schwartz. Thanks for joining us. So long, everybody.